call the roll.
Glenn Whitley, Connie Day.
Here.
Louis Charles Brooks, Commissioner Precinct 1.
Present.
Devin Allen, Commissioner Precinct 2.
Here.
Gary Fickus, Commissioner Precinct 3.
Here.
Cody Johnson, Commissioner Precinct 4. Constitutes a quorum.
Whoops. Our invocation today will be delivered by Minister Coleman Ford from the Village Church in South Lake. Thank you very much for coming out today. After our invocation, please remain standing for our pledges.
Thank you, Judge Whitley. Before a prayer, a reading from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5. You have heard it said, love your neighbor, hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, so that you may be children of your Father in heaven. For he causes the sun to rise on the evil and the good, and sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. For if you love those who love you, what reward will you have? Don't even the tax collectors do the same? And if you greet only your brothers and sisters, what are you doing out of the ordinary? Don't even the Gentiles do the same? Be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect. Let's pray. Holy God, we recognize today that each and every one of us is prone to love only those who look like us, to interact with those who we are most comfortable with, and that often in our hearts we judge others based on appearance, based on the way we talk, the way they look, where they come from. So, Lord, would you convict our hearts even now, Lord, to love those who do not look like us, to be mindful of the most vulnerable among us, and Lord, to be those who find joy and pleasure in seeing others and treating them as, Lord, we would want to be treated. So, Lord, would you help us to love? Would you help us to love those who might be considered enemies, and especially those, Lord, that you see worthy, that are made in your image. So we ask for that today. And Lord, when we fail in those ways, which we inevitably will, would we look to the only perfect one, Jesus Christ, who perfectly loved, perfectly fulfilled your law, perfectly showed us what it was like to lay himself down for his enemies. So would you help us in this hour to trust you, to look to you, to know that only you can help us accomplish the things that we set out to do today. We pray this in the name of Christ our Lord. Amen.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Pastor. Wendy, I called you out there as tax collector. I know. I just.
Thank you. That happened in the tag board meeting the other day too, by the way.
Mr. Mangus, agenda announcements.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the Court, we have several announcements this morning. The first announcement is under the Criminal District Attorney's section. This is item 8C1. We're going to remove that from the consent agenda, and we will consider this after closed today. We'll discuss this briefly in closed. Also, members of the Court, under purchasing, item 8H1. This is RFP 2020-002. We're going to hold that for a week. On item 3 in purchasing, this is bid number 2020-049. We're going to hold that also for a week. And then purchasing on item 8H18. This is the Armored Car Services. We believe that it would be advisable at this time to hold that for 1 week. And then finally, on number 19 under purchasing, this is the ILA with Tarrant County and Harris Fort Bend Emergency Services. We're going to hold that for 1 week also. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
One other thing, Your Honor, we do have an audience present.
Okay.
Today.
Thank you. Court members, you have before you the minutes of our regular meeting of January the 28th.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Commissioner Brooks, I believe you have an announcement to make.
I do, and thank you for recognizing me. First, however, I'd like to welcome back the Criminal District Attorney, Sharon Wilson.
Welcome back.
We are grateful for the healing that has taken place in her body and in her life, and we welcome you back to the bosom of your work family. My announcement is that on February the 15th at 10 o'clock in the morning, Precinct 1 will be having its 6th annual prostate cancer education and screening event. This will take place at the Moncrief Cancer Care Center at 400 West Magnolia Avenue. The event is from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It is absolutely free in every respect to the public. It's our 6th annual event. Over the course of that time, we have screened well over 1,000 men and have found 15% to need referral to treatment, to counseling, to further investigation. This program saves lives. So if you're not aware of your prostate health status, come out and find out that day. Women, if your knucklehead husband or significant other is unaware and is stubborn about it, bring him. We'll give you a red rose for your trouble. Thank you.
Commissioner Allen. You have something too? Okay, sure.
Thank you, Judge. So tomorrow, Wednesday, February 5th, we will have an elections equipment demonstration at Asia Times Square in Grand Prairie. That's from 6 to 7:30. And then Thursday, February 6th, same time, we will have an elections equipment demonstration at the Mansfield Subcourthouse. Now, I know that there has been some advisory about inclement weather, so please stay tuned to our Facebook and our emails in case we have to postpone it. But for right now, those two events, both Wednesday and Thursday evening, will continue. And I want to thank those who attended our elections equipment demonstration this past Thursday at UT Arlington. We had a small but mighty turnout from students who thought that the election equipment was cool and easy to use.
She mentioned inclement weather. I'll just make the favorite statement of all employees within the county, and it is the county does not close. If you can get in safely, I hope you'll make it. But the county is open and will be open. Commissioner Figgles.
Yes. A week from Friday, on the 14th of February, that'd be Valentine's Day, we're going to have our 11th annual Tarrant Transportation Summit. And it looks like we've got a big crowd coming. We still have a few tickets left, but it's going to be a very exciting day for transportation. There's some extremely innovative things that are taking place throughout Tarrant County and the Metroplex in general, and really across the world from the transportation standpoint, and we're going to talk about those. and what is the future of transportation. And I understand that there may be an appearance by the great Carnac. Remember Carnac?
Oh, yeah.
Carnac the Magnificent?
Yeah.
The magnificent.
Yes, he might be there, I hear. So anyway, that's on the 14th, starts at 7:55 in the morning.
Thank you.
Okay?
And I have an announcement. I think I have a picture of Miles Glenn. Miles Glenn was born last Wednesday, and everybody's doing fine.
Wonderful.
And, rightfully so, they're not getting a whole lot of sleep, and that's good. They need to, feel the same pain that we felt when they were born.
And this is grandbaby number
8.
Number 8.
I got 6 from scratch and two bonus, and it's 4 and 4. The boys caught up with the girls with this one. So,
Miles Glenn.
Congratulations, Joe.
pretty happy about it. And now comes, this month it won't be my favorite thing because you just saw my favorite thing. But one of my favorite things is employee recognition. And so once again, we'll go through, and once again, I will try not to mispronounce too many names. There's always going to be 1 or 2 that are just going to have to suffer through it. And as I'm looking down the list, there's going to be at least 1 or 2 that I'm going to suffer through this time. I can't really begin to tell you how much I enjoy this time. I enjoy the opportunity to call and talk with those folks who have been with the county for 25 years plus. But I also enjoy the opportunity to see the courtroom full and to know that you folks are what makes Tarrant County the great place to live, to work, and to raise your families. And so I can't tell you how much I appreciate the professionalism, the way you treat each other as family. We hear it time and again, but in time of need or in time of celebrating, you're always there to help and to celebrate or to comfort folks as they need either one. So again, thank you very much for that. The routine, if you by chance have not been here before, and it's primarily you 5-year folks, I'll call your name, remain standing until I get finished with that particular group. We'll celebrate with you, and then you can sit down and we'll move on to the next group. Again, if it sounds like your name, or if you know where you are in the alphabet and realize that you probably should be next, stand up. Don't get after me too much. These folks up here will get after me all I need to be gotten after for the most part.
Yep.
So here we go, 5 years. David Alex, Criminal District Attorney's Office. Wesley Boyd, Sheriff's Office. Nicole Cervantes, Sheriff's Office. Karsten Courtney, Domestic Relations Office. Victor Diaz, Veterans Services. Catherine Green, Criminal Courts. Angela Jones, Information Technology. Gary Jones Jr., Sheriff's Office. Erica Laura, Juvenile Services. Yeah, I didn't do too good on that one, did I? Thank you for just standing up because you knew where you were in the alphabet. Julie Logo, Criminal District Attorney's Office. Kimberly McGee, Information Technology. Taylor Mentor, Tax Office. Brandon Noble, Criminal Courts. Teresa Rawls, County Administrator's Office. You were over someplace. Sarah Rios, Juvenile Services. Nikki Thack, County Clerk. Ernest White, Sheriff's Office. Billy Williams, Sheriff's Office. Calvin Withers Jr., Juvenile Services, and Angela Wolf, Sheriff's Office. Let's give these 5 years a hand. Next, our 10-year employees. Maria Brizan de la Torre, Public Health.
Not too bad.
Well, so her last name's as long as most everybody else's total. We're glad you're here. Marshall Cannon, Sheriff's Office. I think that's probably Marshall. Bernardo Castro Jr., Sheriff's Office. Orville George, Sheriff's Office. Jane Kamimi, Sheriff's Office. Brandon Monty, Sheriff's Office. Yeah, I hear you down there. Sarah Ritchie, Public Health. Angelica Taylor, 432nd District Court. Miriam Victorn, Public Health. Was she here?
Yep.
So I'm assuming that Pedro Victor, are they related? Is he here? No, I've already gotten the shrug of the shoulders from the sheriff's office over here, so
She's representing both.
he'll have plenty of time to come after today, I'm sure. Peggy West, Sheriff's Office, and Courtney Young, Criminal Courts. These are our 10-year employees. Let's give them a big hand. Now for our 15-year employees: Teresa Ashwander, District Clerk; Mark Schroeb, Purchasing; Johnny Taylor, Facilities Management; Johnny Wright, Constable, Precinct 8. These are our 15-year employees. Let's give them a hand. Now for our 20-year employees: Eugenia Cundiff, Sheriff's Office; Frederick Miller, Sheriff's Office; Nathaniel Robertson, Sheriff's Office; and Richard Turner, Juvenile Services. Let's give these 20-year employees. And now for our 25 plus. First is Reggie Davis, and he wasn't going to be able to be with us today. He's in Juvenile Services, has been there for 25 years. Next is Dana Dickon. There you go. Started in JP7 and has been there ever since. Has had 4 different JPs that you had an opportunity to train out there. When they moved, I asked her about memorable moments, and this is the JP's office out in Mansfield, and they were originally in a little blue building, and so they were real excited about the fact that they had that Mansfield Sub Courthouse on Debbie, and the blue building was on Debbie. She said that when they got to move to that Mansfield Sub Courthouse, she was able to lock the door for the blue building for the last time, and that was something that she said she would never forget. She loved. When I asked her what she likes the most, she said, "I love the opportunities that Tarrant County has given me. Feels like Tarrant County is a big family. The people she has met and worked for," she said the benefits are really good. She said 25 years have just flown by. She's had some great people who have helped her during the years. And she's had, just great people all over the county who are always there to help, not just in the JP's office, but really all over. Dana, I said it wrong the first time, I apologize. Dana, Thank you very much for your 25 years of service to Tarrant County. Next is Ellen Smith from the 323rd District Court, 25 years. She's been the associate judge in that court since 1995. She presides over the delinquencies in the CPS cases and is the presiding judge over the Tarrant County Family Recovery Court from 2007 to present. Memorable moments, she said she remembers when she first started, Judge Moore was there, and one day he came out and said, how are things going? She says, everybody hates me. She said, the police hate me. Everybody, the attorneys hate me. She said, everybody hates me. And he said, that means you're doing a great job. She said another memorable moment was being able to work with the Family Recovery Court, and that as a result of that, they had documented at least 30 clean babies as a result, being born as a result of that effort. So that's something. What she likes, don't stand, don't quite yet. She said, I love the people that I've had a chance to work for. It's been a steady place to work. She's retiring at the end of this month. So we really appreciate the 25 years of service that you've given to Tarrant County and all that you've done for us. Thank you very, very much. Tina Valdez, 25 years. You know, she started to work in the county with Jim Borman's office in 1970 in the district clerk's office. And then she decided, yeah, I think I'm going to go to the private sector. So in 1972, she went to work for IBM. And she worked for IBM really all the way up until about 1995. And I guess, if I don't get this right, you stop me, but one of the people she had worked for, they're shaking their head like she will. One of the people that she had worked with IBM, this position was being eliminated, and so she had planned on taking a little bit of time off, but the lady, her supervisor, knew this guy at church, and this guy at church had said, you know, I really need somebody in my office. And she said, well, I got a lady that'll be great for you. And the person was Gerald Wright, and he needed someone in Tarrant County Housing. And at that time, Gerald was over that particular area. So she came to work for Tarrant County Housing, and then in December of '97, she moved to HR and was the office manager for HR under Gerald, and was there until he passed. And then when he passed, Tina Glenn came in, and she has continued, Tina Valdez has continued to be the office manager. She said, that HR has always been my first love. She says, I love working with employees and doing everything I can to help them through the process. And she said, what I like most about working for the county is I like the policy, the shared work leave, the family feeling also, especially in HR. And she said, quite honestly, the way Tina runs the department. Her brother, Judge Manuel Valdez, served 32 years in Tarrant County. And her dad, after working for the federal government for 30 years, came on and worked as a bailiff in the sheriff's office. I think you said he retired twice. He retired, and then I think, and I may be stepping a little bit out of bounds. Is your mother here with you today? Maybe a little, but he retired and decided he was going to stay at home. And then after a couple of weeks, I think they called him and wanted him to come back, and he says, no, I'm but then his wife said, no, I think you need to go back. Because either you're going to go back to work or I'm going to work. Because we're just not going to, it's just, you need to go to work. So he went back and he retired again. She has two sons, one Paul, who actually played in both the 2000 and 2004 Olympic Games. He lives in Australia with his wife and two sons, and then another son, Michael, who works for Accenture in this area, and his wife, and he has two daughters. She said, I really take a great deal of pride in working for Tarrant County because the reputation that the county has, not only of taking care of its people, but also of just doing things the right way and not being out there trying to, get in front of cameras or getting publicity or doing anything like that. Just doing their job and doing it right. Tina, thank you so much for the 25 years of service. Next is Chris Williamson, Constable, Precinct 6, 25 years. Where's Chris? Well, he has started in Precinct 4. He spent some time with the Sheriff's Office in SWAT area and narcotics. In 2013, he moved to Precinct number 7. And then in 16, he moved to precinct number 6. He started out as the senior deputy, and then after about 6 months, he was moved to the chief deputy. When you see him, please congratulate him and thank him for his 25 years of service to Tarrant County. Next is Kathy Young. Kathy Young, Jr. Years of service to Tarrant County. I believe your mom is with you.
Hi, Mom. Hey, Mom.
I know you're proud of her. We're pretty proud of her too. She started out in personnel under Gerald. After a year, she moved out to Precinct 1, initially office administrator, went back to school, became the community outreach coordinator, executive administrator, and she is now over Precinct 1 garage and is the first woman in Tarrant County to achieve that goal. When I asked her what she liked most, she said it was being able to help and direct people to the services that they needed. She just loved the family atmosphere and the way that people love to reach out and help others. 5 years ago, 3 kids, 10 grandkids, all were in the area, and she had just recently gotten married to someone she had known for over 20 years. And she said, I feel like God has a hand in putting me in this place, and felt very blessed. Just recently, when I talked with her this week, she said her 2 oldest granddaughters, one graduated from high school in the, I don't know that I got that right, graduated from high school, and then the youngest is just starting kindergarten. And I've got one, a bonus that's in college, and obviously one that's a little less than a week old. 5 years ago, as I said just a few moments ago, she remarried. She got married, and she said, I feel like I found my best friend, and it's just the love of my life. The opportunity, she said, the county has offered, and the opportunity to be involved in so many areas of the county is something that she could not say enough about. Kathy, thank you for your 30 years of service to Tarrant County. Last, Ernie Lopez, 30 years with the county. Started out in juvenile area, 20 years, have been there in different positions. Now is working, you had worked on the JCMS project. I know you helped along with that. When I asked him about memorable moments, he said I guess you had come down and you were running an errand downtown when you first started out, and he just parked in a parking spot. Well, it happened to be Judge English's parking spot. And he got a message that said, or card put on his window that said, "Come to the judge's office." Well, when the judge parked someplace else, he didn't park in the right place, and he almost got his car. Did he get it towed, or did he almost get it towed?
They had the hooks on it, Judge.
So they were about to tow the judge's car. Well, Kerry Cockrell was the juvenile. He was the guy out at juvenile at that point in time, and he kind of heard about this, and he called him and he said, "Get out of that office. Let me intervene for you." Now, he was outside of the probationary period, but just barely. And so Kerry got him out of the office before the judge got to him. The judge may have been down trying to get his car unhooked before he got towed. But that's something he said I will never forget. He says, "I love the opportunity to work. Very proud of the county." 5 years ago, he had a 13 and an 11-year-old who were keeping him busy. His daughter is now graduated from high school and just made the dean's list as a freshman at TCU. Son is a sophomore at Keller High School. He said his wife had quit work so that she could be a part of the daughter's senior year. He said when he first started, he looked, when he very first started in the county, he looked at the 25-year employees and he said, "When are y'all going to quit so I can take your place, so I can move up?" And he says, those young employees are looking at me now. And they're saying exactly the same thing. I just know it. They're just not saying it to my face. Ernie, we thank you so much for your 30 years of service to Tarrant. Total of 545 years. When I tell folks in other counties that we do this, they're just amazed when I tell them, well, I'll always have at least a couple of 30s. Sometimes I'll have a 35, a 40, or a 45, and they just look at me like, why are those people still working? And I tell them because they have such a passion and they don't feel like they're working and they love what they do. Because many of them could be making a lot more money in retirement than what we're paying them here. And folks, I want you to hear that some of you 5 and 10, you're going to get to that point. And it's just a passion for public service and a passion for serving people. And that's your gift. And we thank you every day for that gift that you give, because that's what makes Tarrant County what it is. We got refreshments back in 504C. Thank you all very much again. Look like you're getting ready to go somewhere. Can I get a motion to receive and file the employee?
Second?
We have a motion second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Court members, you have before you the consent agenda with the changes that Mr. Manius mentioned earlier.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Manius.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the court, we have two additional items this morning. The first, we're requesting that the Commissioners Court approve Texas Juvenile 2020 Resource Sharing Addendum between Tarrant County and the Texas Local Government Corporation and the various participants.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Members of the court, on item number 2, Ms. McMillan is here to address the court.
Good morning, Judge, Commissioners.
Good morning.
We have for you today a request for concurrence of a foreign trade zone designation for Allied Electronics. They are a distributor of industrial automation products and electrical components with sales offices in North and South America, and their Fort Worth operations is out of a 357,000 square foot distribution center at 7151 Jack Newell Boulevard South. And I've got a map here to show where that location is. Down south of Hanley-Etterville and west of 820. They have 500 employees at that location. They have plans to expand that facility by adding 207,000 square feet of office and warehouse space and adding 200 more employees over the next 2 years. That expansion is expected to add approximately $30 million in real and business personal property value to the site and another $39 million in inventory value. They are requesting a foreign trade zone designation to provide for a more efficient supply chain flow and allow for cost savings from exempted or deferred customs duties. Their facility currently already receives foreign trade zone, Freeport exemption, and so with the addition of the foreign trade zone designation, some additional inventory value will also be exempted. However, we have looked at the analysis, and the tax revenues with their added property tax value due to the facility expansion is expected to offset that reduction in inventory from the foreign trade zone taxes. So currently, the taxes that Tarrant County gets for that site is approximately $86,000, and that is expected to double to about $173,000 with the expansion and even with the foreign trade zone designation. And then the hospital district is expected to double similarly during that time. So today, the Allied Electronics is requesting Tarrant County's approval of a letter concurring with their application to the Foreign Trade Zone Board for designation as a FTZ. And I want to note that the City of Fort Worth and Birdville ISD have already approved similar letters of concurrence.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Belly, looks like you're the designated facilities person.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We have one item for your consideration: approval of professional service contract with Terracon Consultants, Inc. for construction materials engineering testing services for the Juvenile Center project included in the 2006 Capital Improvement Program.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Glenn.
Move to receive and file the personnel agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for receive and file personnel agenda. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. I did get a few steps in.
Yes, you
Good
did.
morning,
Yes, you
Ms.
did.
Glenn.
Vinnie.
Good morning, Your Honor, members of the court.
Benny?
Public Health has one item for your consideration this morning. We're requesting approval to submit a grant application to the Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality to explore how health information technology improves healthcare quality and outcomes.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Mr. Beecham.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We have 6 items for your consideration this morning. If we can go to item number 2, which is a bid award recommendation for bid 2020-022. This is a bid for the purchase of precinct election supply bags. Our recommendation would be to award on a per enterprise basis to Mascot Metropolitan Incorporated.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
We can go to item number 4, also a bid award recommendation for bid 2020-050. This is our annual contract for automated external defibrillators and accessories and bleed control kits. Recommendation would be to award on a per enterprise basis, awarding to the primary and secondary vendors meeting all specifications as shown in your court communique.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are we going to put the bleed kits, are they going to be right with the defibrillators?
I don't know that. I will find out and get back to you. I believe probably we will.
That's what we anticipate.
The person back at the back is shaking her head yes, and so is Helen, so I'm assuming that that's the case. Thank you for
Yes.
your quick answer. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
If we can go to item number 5, this is an item in regards to bid 2019-223. This is our annual contract for sign shop supplies. We're asking the court to rescind court order 131785. This was brought to you initially December 10, 2019. Under court order 131785, shortly after that, we received notice or request from Reese Supply Company stating that they could not hold a pricing firm for 4 items. We are recommending reaward of everything. They still have items they were awarded, chose not to hold their price firm on 4 items, which will just get quotes on, small dollar, not really a big deal.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. If we can now go to item number 6, item in regards to RFP 2016-095. We are asking the court to consider approval of reactivation fees. This is in regards to RFP 2016-095, annual contract for audiovisual systems, brought to court initially on October 5th, 2019. On January 2nd, 2020, it was discovered that there were 4 activation fees for maintenance that had expired. This would increase that purchase for $3,710. We're asking the court to consider those reactivation fees.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Okay, will you explain to me the reactivation fees?
Commissioners, typically we don't actually extend maintenance on hardware. We do on software. It's required in order to continue its use and maintenance associated with it. But on hardware, we only do maintenance when we do the initial purchase. Typically, it's from 1 to 4 years. And after that 4-year component, we let it expire, which is what we did here. And the only reason why we're asking to extend this is because the use of this particular equipment is vital to our AV system. I know y'all are familiar with things like magistration, remote testimonies, and things like this. And this hardware, which are actually very specific cameras, they're really good cameras, but we don't want to run a risk of not having maintenance on it. So even though we let it expire back in 2018, since we're getting ready to expand our remote magistration, we decided we needed to go ahead and reinsert the maintenance associated with this. And yes, there is a $3,700 reactivation fee. It's actually a little less than if we'd actually bought the maintenance, but there is a fee associated with it. This is actually the exception because we typically do not do extended maintenance on hardware. We let them expire. We have a refresh program, things like that associated with it. So,
how long had it expired?
It's been out for 18 months. 3 of the items, it was out since July of 18, and 1 of the items since February of 19. But part of the reason why we're picking this moment to reinsert, we're actually getting ready to expand the remote magistration. If you're familiar with that, we're actually getting ready to expand into Arlington and soon into City of Fort Worth.
So
And
it's
even though
Greg's fault?
No, sir, it's nobody's fault.
Oh, come on.
No, I am very excited about the remote deal. That's something that I've been on Greg to try to get done for a long time. So if this is moving up the remote or is going to be there to help with that process, then I'm all for it.
Yep. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, if we can go now to, please, item number 7, an item in regards to RFP 2016-207, which was an RFP for an annual contract for a dynamic case management platform and professional services. We are requesting approval of a change order. See if I can explain this one. On June 11th, 2019, through quarter 10390, this was approved for renewal. We should have brought a change order should have occurred. That never did happen. Should have been brought back to Commissioners Court for your consideration. That is in the amount of $42,875. So we're asking the court for consideration of that approval now of that change order, which never occurred.
What does the change order accomplish?
Chris?
So what this issue is that we've been doing work on domestic relations software, and we got to a point we continued that work, and we failed to put a change order in. And so there was a mistake that was made in IT on this, and we are now asking that we be allowed to go ahead and pay for the work that's been done. As it relates to that, we have engaged some disciplinary action on those people in IT that didn't do this work. And so that's why we're coming to you today to ask for permission to pay for work that's been already performed.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion to second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And our last item this morning, item number 8, in regards to bid 2018-178, the annual contract for Appian Professional Services, which was awarded to GXP Partners. This was for hourly labor rates for technology professional services. The services were completed on August 13th and 14th, 2019. Our purchase order was actually issued in September 16th, 2019, and the IT department asked that a credit memo be issued to cover that, and from what I understand, that was to take care of internal paperwork issues and funding. That invoice has not been paid to date. We're asking the court to approve that.
So this is the same project of the previous RFP?
Yes.
And is the same, I guess, personnel that received the disciplinary actions?
That's correct. Plus, the new invoice that we're asking you to pay is dated January 31st, 2020.
I'm sorry, will you repeat that?
I said the invoice that we're asking you to pay, or authorize us to pay, is dated January 31st, 2020.
Move approval.
I'll second it. But the work was actually done in August of 2019?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, since we crossed fiscal years, is it immaterial? Renee?
At $4,000, I would say yes, sir.
Okay. Any other discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
But we've got everybody clear now that we're not doing work unless we've got it authorized to do.
Yes, sir. We have delivered that message.
Okay. I guess it comes out of somebody's pocket if we don't pay it. Commissioner Fickus, I believe you have a
I
interlocal
do.
agreement.
I have 3 interlocal agreements. This is 8K1, A and B to Colleyville, C and D to Richland Hills, E and F to Westlake, all for different types of road work. I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Are there any appointments today? You have before you the claims, including the addendum.
Move approval of the claims including the addendum.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the claims, including the addendum. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Briefing items, Mr. Mayes?
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the court, we have one item that we'd like to bring to you this morning. This is the continuation of our current emerging health issues. Dr. Tanaja is here to address the court at this time.
Come on down, Vinny. This is your week to have a long PowerPoint.
Well, I know, but we're going to keep it short. So you're all now familiar with coronavirus. So let me cover that first because it is making a lot of news. So CDC declared that there was a limited localized transmission in the United States. The first one we heard was in Chicago where a family member got impacted and was diagnosed with coronavirus. And then again, there was a second one, I believe, in California. So we, at this point, I believe, have 11 confirmed cases in the U.S. 9 are travel-related from China and 2 family members. And this is not unusual at this point. In the past coronavirus outbreaks, we've seen that kind of stuff occur with family members or also healthcare workers. And I believe there are other countries that have had a limited local transmission like this. But it is a precursor. If stuff gets out, in the community, then it becomes a generalized, localized transmission. So it is very important that our healthcare industry, is understanding this disease, and that's what public health's doing to make sure that we're working with them and have all the appropriate measures in place so that this is kept within those localized cases. So WHO did declare 2019 novel coronavirus as a public health emergency of international concern. The State Department elevated the travel alert to level 4 for China. Do not travel to China, so no travel there, nothing coming back. And then on Friday last week, CDC and the federal government did declare a public health emergency for the United States. So that was historic. We've not done that very recently on a lot of things. And then, of course, for the first time ever, CDC did issue a quarantine order for 195 people altogether. I think in 50 years they haven't done that. So that was a flight coming back of people being repatriated from China. They're in California under a quarantine order at this point. So if I can get a link click on that global case count to get you the latest update. That's on our website. We have a dashboard that is directly linked to Johns Hopkins, and we have a somewhat real time. It's not exactly real time. It's like 4 times a day they update the information, but they're getting this from CDC, WHO, and a couple of Chinese health authorities that are feeding the information in. We have 20,704 confirmed cases. Most of them are still in China. I believe there are 26 locations outside of mainland China with 24 countries involved. But those case counts are like less than 200 altogether outside of China. So most of it is in mainland China. And again, the bulk of it being in Hubei province, which is the province or the state for Wuhan City where this originated. I think there are about 13,500 and so cases in that province itself. So that's the epicenter of the outbreak. 427 deaths reported. I believe 425 are from China. 2 outside of China, 1 in Philippines and 1 in Hong Kong. And I say Hong Kong's outside of China, but it's China, but outside of mainland China. And then the 1 in Philippines, we understand, had multiple other things. They had influenza, pneumonia, and coronavirus. So it's related to coronavirus, but may not be attributed to coronavirus. So that's the latest update from a number of cases. Thing to note is that on Friday we had 9,900 cases, and now on Tuesday we have 20,704. So that's a very rapid growth. And if we can get a click on that line graph, that will help us kind of see the epi curve. The top line that you're seeing is the number of cases in China. As you can see, January 23rd, we were pretty low, like 200 and some cases. And now on February 3rd, about 20, maybe 10 days later, we're at 20,000. So that's what we call an exponential epi curve. So it's a very sharp rise in number of confirmed cases. The bottom line with the dots on the bottom is overseas situations outside of mainland China, and we're hovering in a very low range. So that's very good news. But, it's in the media, it's being discussed internationally. It's got all the makings of a pandemic virus. So it's a brand new virus with no treatment, no vaccine available. Only public health measures are available, like making sure that it doesn't get out. And it is still in 24 other countries. So as long as there's limited local transmission, I believe that's what's keeping it as not a pandemic. If it starts to have generalized local transmission in multiple countries, that's when it will probably get a label of a pandemic virus. So all the makings are there, but it is not considered a pandemic at this time. Next slide, please. Okay, we're back. All right. And this is already old, but I believe we're still in like 270 some cases, or people under investigation in the United States in 36 states. A lot of them have turned out to be negative. I believe 170 or so have turned out to be negative. The rest are pending. 11 confirmed cases so far in the United States. What is Tarrant County Public Health doing? So let me first correct, there was a typo on my slide. We did activate a coronavirus hotline. The number is 817-248-6299. It's the same number that we've used for many situations in the past. We just kind of update the label as the situation changes. And we have been talking about activating or having activated our Department Operations Center, so that's working well. We have daily situation briefings in the afternoon for our public health teams because it involves more than just epidemiology. We have preparedness. We have other teams involved from public health who listen into the daily situation updates. And there are a couple of things that we kind of figure out every day. How many are total number of cases? What's happening in the U.S.? Are there any guidance changes that we need to then localize and provide health alerts to appropriate partners? And that's part of our effort. We've been doing situation briefings for county leadership and community partners, and also providing health alerts to healthcare providers, emergency management, ambulance companies, college and universities, school districts, all our usual partners that need this information, because obviously, people get concerned when they hear a lot on the media, what should we be doing to prepare? Good news in all of this is, from a situational awareness standpoint, that there were only 15 identified people under investigation in the state of Texas. 10 have tested negative so far, 5 are pending results, and no confirmed cases in Texas. So that's very, very good news. And that's what we've been conveying to our partners, that we are preparing for this, but we don't have anything here yet that they need to worry about. And again, we're regularly attending calls with DSHS and CDC because the situation does evolve very rapidly. Case counts change, guidance comes out. So we're keeping tabs on all that and also updating that on our county website.
Is there just one agency that does the testing?
Right now, at this point, only CDC has the capability to do the testing. They have promised that it will be pushed out to the state health departments soon at their state labs. And we've been working with our DSHS lab to make sure that we get that, if not at the same time, pretty soon after that, so we can have that capability here. It alleviates the pressure on the state labs because everything becomes a bottleneck if there's only one area doing it. So if you distribute that capacity, then things can be done faster and handle the caseload faster. Okay, any questions on coronavirus before I move on to the flu? Okay. All right, so now back to the real problem that we have on hand, and I want to stress that people need to understand coronavirus is a problem that we're watching develop overseas, and of course we're taking all preparatory actions just in case it comes here to Texas. So that's very important to understand. But the real issue we have on hand, and it happens every year, we kind of lose our focus, is the flu. We're in the middle of the flu season. We know we had an early peak, and then it was declining for 2 or 3 weeks. One of the previous maps were starting to show some green areas in the country, and it was looking like, hey, we're coming down from activity, but the current map that you see on the right is getting back red again. I think there are now about 40 states out of the 50 that are reporting high levels of widespread flu activity. So that tells you that the seasonal peak is on its way because it peaks in February. So we're seeing a run at the peak again, and Texas is no exception. Here's our influenza-like illness picture. First, the national graph on the left. As you saw, there were like 3 weeks of decline, those triangle dotted lines. And then now we've had 2 weeks of rise in activity again. Texas map on the right, you're seeing the same thing. We had a peak early, in January or late December, and then it declined for like about 3 weeks, and now we're starting to pick activity back up in Texas. Similar picture, a green line in Tarrant County. We declined for about 3 to 4 weeks, and now we're picking back up. So all that is to say that influenza is a major problem in our community, and we really need to be paying attention to influenza as county residents. Let the health department people worry about other diseases that are out there, but as general public, we really need to pay attention to influenza and take our precautions. Take the vaccine, and if you're sick, stay home, get to a provider, get antivirals. Those are the things that we need to be doing every day to fight influenza, because that's a real problem. Again, hospitalization standpoint, we're kind of middle of the road season nationally, but I can tell you Tarrant County has had a little bit of a rougher year than what national data is showing. The 2019-20 season here is represented by the red line with the dots, so we're kind of in the middle. Not a bad year nationally. Here's positive lab tests. Again, this graph with the green bars represents the influenza B that we had early in the season. And again, we keep harping on that because that was very unusual to see that early in the season. Typically, it kind of gets mixed in February and then makes a peak for us. But this year, we had an early peak because of influenza B, and now we're going to see influenza A probably add to that and make a run at the second peak. So you're starting to see that on these graphs that the lines are rising back up to add to a second peak. Here's a zip code distribution map for Tarrant County. Not much has changed. Some of the colors have moved around a little bit, but central part of the county still being impacted very heavily with influenza. A couple of the zip codes are reporting white. That means the data was too low to report. That doesn't mean they don't have flu. They do have the flu because it's widespread across the county, but they just did not have enough reports coming out of those particular areas to show on a map. But it is, again, widespread flu activity across the county. Everybody needs to take their appropriate precautions. And a key message from the CDC, because they do update this graph once in a while, and there are 19 million illnesses that have happened for influenza. Stark comparison to only 20,000 cases occurring in China for coronavirus and how much attention we've paid to that. 19 million illnesses in the United States with influenza. 8.6 million medical visits, 180,000 hospitalizations, and 10,000 deaths in the United States. So this is at home. We need to be paying attention to this very strongly. Final takeaway, treat flu with antivirals. So that's a message for our healthcare community, and that's a message for the public. Ask for antivirals. If you think you have the flu, ask your provider for antivirals. Don't just run to the ER. If you're okay and don't have breathing difficulties and you don't think you have the pneumonia, you just think you have the flu, go to a Minute Clinic, get an app-based provider to get you a prescription, or go to an urgent care. Reserve the ER visit when you're really, really, really sick and can't breathe. That's when you need to go to an ER. Otherwise, ask your provider for antivirals, and that should take care of the flu pretty quickly. That's all I have. Any questions?
Any questions?
Wash your hands.
Yes, sir. I know I give that message every time. That's a given by now. People need to pay attention, and we forget that. Wash your hands throughout the day, many times a day, with warm soap and water. The alcohol gels are a supplement. They're not a replacement. I know we get a question on that all the time, especially from schools. Can we use alcohol gels? Yes, you can, as a supplement. Make sure the kids are washing their hands at school throughout the day, because that's how diseases are spread. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Vinny.
Thank you, Vinny. At this time, we have audience participation. Diane Wood. Good morning. Please go ahead and restate your name and your address.
My name's Diane Wood. I live at 813 Crawford Street in Fort Worth.
Good morning, Ms. Diane.
Thank you. I'm coming to speak about my opposition to the 287G ICE program. It's been about a year since many of our community members came to you for many weeks talking about this, and looks like we're coming back again. We at that time requested that the program not be renewed, and I'm hoping this year it will not be renewed again. Will not be renewed. Through the many weeks that we provided research for you, factual information, and we brought migrants to you so you could know and understand that their gut-wrenching suffering and unnecessary pain. We met with most of you individually. We thought you understood and believed us. To our surprise and dismay, 3 of you voted to renew the program last June for another year. Maybe we didn't present the information in a clear format. Maybe you thought we were fabricating the information. Maybe our research wasn't sufficient for you. Maybe you really didn't believe the heartrending stories from the migrants in our community. For whatever reason, your decision has resulted in the continuance of the destruction, fear, and distrust of the program and in our community. So we're back again, and we will make every effort to ensure that our efforts to you are believable and clear and urgent through the next weeks. Collaboration through the 287G agreement is not mandatory and makes our communities less safe. It's racist, it's unconstitutional, fraught with illegal ethnic profiling and other civil rights violations, including the harassment of our Latino communities. It's a serious problem that ICE has completely failed to monitor or acknowledge, much less address. With ICE conducting roundups in homes, workplaces, schools, and courthouses, immigrant communities are on edge. Having local law enforcement officers to do ICE agents' work for them has not made our communities any safer. The program has a track record of devastating consequences for community relations. It drives both witnesses and victims of crimes into the shadows and annihilates the trust and cooperation on which our local law enforcement rely to do their job and keep the community safe. It erodes people's trust in our officers and makes residents reluctant to report crimes because they fear that they or their family will face deportation. Decisions on participation in federal immigration enforcement require community input and transparent consideration, not backroom dealings with ICE. Collaboration with this program strains public funds and exposes our local government to legal liability. The 287G program is fraught with constitutional red flags. In addition to diverting indispensable resources away from public safety and racial profiling, it creates fertile conditions for Fourth Amendment violations. The costs of enmeshing in federal civil immigration enforcement far outweigh any perceived benefits. Counties have no obligation under federal law to enter into this voluntary program. Considering the risk to public safety and the potential exposure to civil rights liability, it's a mystery to me why you choose to continue this program. I implore you to place our community and its safety first by refusing to enter into the program or any other intergovernmental service agreement with ICE. Thank you very much. I brought copies of this statement to you, if I may. I brought a copy for each of you. If you could please file those in your files. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Again, because it's not on the agenda, we cannot respond.
I understand.
Anyway.
Thank you.
That it, Mr. Manius?
That's all we have at this time, Your Honor.
Then we'll recess our open meeting and proceed to close to discuss items exempted under section. She's got that puzzled and grimace look on her face that, having returned from our closed session, will now address the following matters. That's you.
Members of the court, I would ask the court to approve submission of the county's proof of claim form in the In Re GSE bonds antitrust litigation in the Southern District of New York, that you would authorize the county judge to sign the claim form on behalf of the county making the claims with the numbers that have been provided by the auditor's office, and authorize the DA's office to make electronic submission of the claim form.
Move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. There being no further business, we're adjourned.